Welcome to Patina Talks, our audio series that showcases and shares the expertise and insights of Patina professionals to help you and your organization. All Patina Talks can be found at patinasolutions.com.
Well, welcome to Patina Talks. I'm Mike Harris, the CEO of Patina Solutions. I'm pleased to have Kerri Balliet on the program today. Kerri is a transformation coach with expertise in corporate leadership and team development. She frequently facilitates workshops for companies called the 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Team. And we're proud that Kerri is a member of the Patina Nation. Kerri, welcome to Patina Talks.
Thanks, Mike. I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Well, would you please start off by giving us a little bit about your background and then maybe share with us why you're so passionate about the subject of building great teams?
You bet. So I've been in business management and operations for about 35 years, mostly in the media and publishing space. I have been responsible for finding operational efficiencies, implementing new processes, launching new businesses of scale. I've had lots of experience with organizational restructures and also leading implementation teams. And so I have worked with a ton of different teams. And I have to say that in all of my years of working with teams, I am a really results-oriented person. It's just part of my DNA. And so I would get kind of frustrated when I was working on teams or when I was working with teams that weren't cohesive. And so I started doing a lot of behavioral work with the folks on my teams. And it was really amazing to see the impact and the results that we were able to achieve by really honing in on some of those behaviors. So I transitioned out of corporate in 2017 and decided that I wanted to try my hand at transformational coaching. And so now I get to help companies create learning cultures.
Yeah, you saw the power of what a really good team could do for results.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So we're here today to talk about building high-performing teams. And what are some of the honest questions a leader needs to ask themselves about their own team to get started?
Yeah, I think there's 2 really critical questions that a leader needs to ask. I think you need to figure out whether your team is really a team or whether it's just a collection of individuals. So when we think about teams, we think about goals and achieving those goals, right? When we think about a collection of people, these are folks that are just brought together that don't have mutually exclusive goals. These are people that are in charge of finding separate goals. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you have a team. The second thing that you want to make sure is that does your team exhibit the 5 key behaviors that are needed for them to be cohesive and high performing?
Excellent. So what are those 5 key behaviors that teams really need to be high performing?
So I like to look at those 5 behaviors in the framework of a pyramid. And I like the framework of the pyramid because the pyramid builds off of all of the pieces. So I like to start at the bottom of the pyramid and really look at that pyramid in 5 different pieces. If you take out any of those pieces, it becomes difficult to build that pyramid. All right, so we're going to start at the bottom, the most important, which is vulnerability-based trust. Without vulnerability-based trust, teams will find it very hard to overcome the other 5 behaviors that are on the pyramid. Now, next up on top of the vulnerability-based trust is productive conflict. That's what comes next on the pyramid. And without trust, you don't have productive conflict. And when we talk about productive conflict, I'm not talking about the arguments. This is the unfiltered, passionate debate. This is about everybody getting their thoughts and ideas out on the table. All right. Once we have productive conflict, then next on the pyramid comes commitment. Then teams are really able to get commitment. And without productive conflict, it's very difficult to get everyone on the team to commit to the decision that's been made by the leader. Now, once we achieve the commitment, then on top of that comes the accountability. So with commitment, then we're able to hold each other, every person on the team, accountable for the decisions and the results that are happening. And then lastly, on the top of the pyramid is results. And I know that lots of teams like to start with results because this is the part that everyone measures, right? Mm-hmm. However, it really is interdependent on all of the other 4 behaviors to be able to achieve the best results. And when we talk about results, I'm talking about the collective result of the team, not the result of all of the individuals that make up that team.
Well, you make it sound so easy to have a great team, but we all know it's really not. So why is it often such a challenge for people to have a high-performing team?
So I would like to share two statistics with you this morning. So the first is a statistic from Visix.com that says 39% of surveyed employees believe that people in their own organization don't collaborate enough. And the Harvard Business Review survey reveals that 58% of people say they trust strangers more than their own boss. Hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
So what does this tell us? This tells us that teams are inherently dysfunctional. And that's because teams are made up of human beings. And so we can't just tell someone to trust us or commit to something and expect that they're just going to do it, right? There's all sorts of things that we need to put in place first in order for someone to feel that they have any sense of loyalty or devotion to us. So I like to say that it starts with building awareness, right? I call this learning into the gap. And so, for example, every person on the team has to have awareness of their personality, of their strengths, their superpowers, their areas of limiting beliefs, their challenges. That all fits into having a cohesive team.
Yeah, it's a lot that has to go into it. You think about sports teams, and very few times are they strong and cohesive for a long period of time. There's so many factors that can influence it. So if you say, look, what are the main benefits? Why put the effort forth to build a really strong, cohesive team? Why is it so important?
Yeah, I love that you used the sports analogy. I love using the sports analogy, the basketball team analogy. I also love to use the analogy of an orchestra. Right? Mm-hmm. What happens when you have a sports team that plays well? You win games, you win championships. When you have an orchestra that plays well, you play beautiful music, right? So here are your benefits of a cohesive team. You can make faster, better decisions. You can be nimble, you can move quickly. You can tap into the skills and opinions of all members of that team, which means you are honing in on everyone's expertise on that team. You avoid wasting time and energy on the politics that can come about with teams, any confusion, and also the destructive conflict that arises when arguments happen. You also avoid wasting time talking about the wrong issues, or the symptoms, as I like to call them, and revisiting the same topics, right? Talking about those topics over and over and over again. And also, a cohesive team can create a competitive advantage, which is so important in today's environment. Mm-hmm. And also, really, cohesive teams, let's face it, they're just a lot of fun to be on. And it's all about having fun.
Yeah, excellent. So earlier you mentioned, when you were talking about the pyramid, the collective results. So let's talk a little bit more about that. What do you mean by that, and why is that one so important?
Yeah, so getting back to the pyramid and the collective results, which we find on the top of the pyramid, that's really about putting the needs of the team before your individual team. So, when we think about high-performing teams, they are really intolerant of any action and behaviors that doesn't serve the interest of the team, that only serve individual needs. Now, let's go back to that basketball analogy, okay? So when we think about the basketball team and we think about that basketball player who is only focused on getting down the court and getting the ball in the basket so they can get as many points as they can, right? They are putting that team at risk because they are missing all of the fabulous opportunities and possibilities that could be coming their way by strategizing with their teammates, by being able to pass the ball. They may be even giving up additional points that they may be able to get by utilizing their team members, right? And when you think about an orchestra, Mike, can you imagine what an orchestra would sound like if each member of that orchestra was only playing their instrument for themselves?
Wow. So you mentioned vulnerability-based trust as the foundation of the pyramid, the first level. So tell us a little bit more about why that's so important.
Yeah, vulnerability-based trust really is the foundation of the pyramid. Without vulnerability-based trust, it's going to be hard to achieve all of the other behaviors that are on the pyramid. So this is really about team members being comfortable and open with one another regarding their failures, their weaknesses, and their fears. It's really based on the simple idea that people are willing to admit the truth about themselves, and they won't engage in the kind of political behavior that wastes everyone's time and makes it really hard to achieve results. So members have to be comfortable saying, I'm sorry. They have to be comfortable saying things like, I was wrong, I don't know the answer, and I'm not sure. So now, Mike, I know I've been in plenty of meetings, some of them actually my own, where ideas were brought to the table, and instead of lots of discussion, everyone was silent. I think we've all experienced those times. Now, that's really all about people not trusting themselves or one another to say what they're really thinking. So there's a great quote that Patrick Lencioni has. It says, "The majority of meetings should be discussions that lead to decisions."
Boy, I don't know that all of us would feel that way about the meetings that we're in, but we can learn a lot about what you just from what you just said. So what, in your mind, what is the hardest behavior for teams to really achieve?
This is such a good question. I think it really depends on the style of the team. So for some teams, it's going to be productive conflict, because being able to have productive conflict means you have to get comfortable being in the uncomfortable. So this is really about being able to engage in the unfiltered, passionate debate that surrounds the issues and the decisions that you have to make, right? And it's about listening to others' ideas and then considering their points of view. So you have to be willing to let go of your outcomes to be able to have productive conflict. This is really about pushing each other to make the best decision for the organization. And that can be really tough for teams sometimes. Now, and for others, like the most recent team that I worked with, they had issues with their accountability. Now, this was not because they were not able to give feedback to one another. This was because they realized that they were all big picture thinkers. And so follow through was not their strength. Now, the really great part about looking at the 5 behaviors is once they identified this, they were able to take the steps they needed to be able to resolve it.
Right. What about gaining commitment? That seems like, to me, that might be the easiest behavior to achieve as a team, but do you agree with that?
Well, you would think that it would be. However, according to McKinsey Consulting, 97% of employees and executives believe that a lack of alignment in a team negatively impacts their projects. And commitment can be a little sticky because it actually has a 2-prong approach. So commitment is about working on standards and also committing to decisions. So when we think about standards, or as I like to call them, ground rules, right? The team really has to commit to how are they going to be handling meetings? What is the timeliness of their meetings? They also have to agree to the responsiveness of their communication and also some general interpersonal behavior. How is the team going to behave with one another? They also have to commit to some principles such as purpose, the values, their mission, their strategy, and their goals. And all of the members of the team have to know the team's what the top priority is and how each of them is going to contribute to that priority moving forward. So then once they've got those standards down, then we move over into the decision phase of the commitment, right? So the group actually needs to buy into a decision. Now we know that it is hard to get everyone on a team to agree. And so what you really need to do for commitment is to defy the lack of consensus on the team, right? So this means getting everything on the table so everyone's thoughts and ideas and opinions can be heard and be considered. So what I find so interesting is that most folks don't need to have their ideas adopted to be able to buy into a decision, right? They just need to be heard. And that's the key to getting buy-in and commitment for your team.
Yeah, excellent. So if I'm a leader and I really believe in the power of a great team, so what would you suggest a team leader do to get started to create the right kind of team, the best kind of team?
Yeah, I really think the key to transformation is a committed leader. So they really need to start with themselves, and they need to hold themselves accountable for the behaviors that we've been talking about here today. And they need to make sure that they're truly ready to take the team on this journey. So mastering the 5 behaviors takes time, it takes practice, it takes focus and commitment. So the leader needs to be ready to take the team on that journey. And then the leader also needs to get the conversation started, right? Plant the seeds of the desired outcome. And you really cannot over communicate this, Mike. This one's really important. You absolutely cannot talk about this enough. So say it, and then say it again.
Very good. What about the flip side? What should leaders do sort of avoid doing that might be harming the team's effectiveness?
So I think one of the things that's really important for a leader is to feel like they have to be the person that holds everyone on the team accountable. So this is really inefficient, and it breeds some politics that aren't good for the team. And I know it's really hard. It can be hard for team members to give their peers feedback. It's one of the hardest things that you can do. However, peer-to-peer pressure is really efficient. And so this is a really critical step that teams need to conquer. And also, I think it's really important for the team leader to be transparent. Don't be ambiguous. Make sure that you define what your success looks like for your team, so they know what they're reaching for, so they know what they have to be, so they know what they need to accomplish. Transparency is really key here to making sure that they know what their success looks like. And I always like to think of this in terms of a scoreboard, right? So because a scoreboard allows everyone to focus on one thing, winning, right? And so it provides really transparent information about how the team is doing and how much time the members have left and anything that they need to improve to be able to get the results that they want.
Great. So I certainly love the idea of designing a supportive team environment as a next step for folks to think about. So what does that look like in your mind?
You know, Mike, when I really think about all of the successes that I've had in my career and all of the challenges that I've overcome, I'm reminded that I have not done any of that alone. That I have always surrounded myself with people and resources that have allowed me to learn new skills, gain new perspectives, and stretch beyond my current capacity. And so I really feel like this is what designing a supportive environment is all about. It's about surrounding yourself with people that have different skill sets than you do so that you can achieve success. So that would be talking with mentors, coaches, other executives, even the people in your company. It would be reading articles and books, listening to podcasts, and maybe even finding a learning platform so that you can accelerate your learnings.
Excellent. Is there anything else specific you could recommend to team leaders so they can improve?
Well, I highly recommend reading Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It's a really quick read. It's a fable, and so it really illustrates the 5 behaviors in a real-time company. So it's really easy to see how those 5 behaviors interconnect with one another. And then, of course, I recommend the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team workshop. And what I really love about this workshop is that it does 2 things for teams. It gives the team a really clear picture of where they currently stand on the 5 behaviors. And this is done by sending out assessments to the team ahead of time. And then it also gives the team concrete ideas on the things that they can do to improve the 5 behaviors for their team. And then I also recommend individual coaching for team members. Individual coaching allows team members to work individually on those internal reference points that may be getting in the way of their progress and getting the results that they want. So I'd like to talk about a quote that Patrick says. This is one of the quotes that Patrick has said quite often. He says, "Not finance, not strategy, not technology. It is teamwork that remains the ultimate competitive advantage, both because it is so powerful and so rare." And that's because bringing everyone's personality and preferences to form a cohesive, high-performing team, it takes work. But the payoff can be really big. And it's big for the individual, it's big for the team, and it's big for the organization.
Well, that's excellent. Kerri, I want to thank you for coming on today to share your passion and your knowledge about building a great team. It's clear that building and maintaining a strong team is critical to really so much success in all facets of our lives, really. So I'm going to leave you with just a few quotes on teams. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. That was Helen Keller. And talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships. That was the great Michael Jordan. So again, I want to thank Kerri for sharing her insights, passion, and experience with us on Patina Talks. Kerri is a member of the Patina Nation, and she is available to help our clients who need team building support and guidance. And it's all about the teamwork, folks. I'm Mike Harris, the CEO of Patina, and thanks again for listening to Patina Talks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Patina Talks. We trust it provided valuable insights to help you and your organization. All Patina Talks can be found and accessed at patinasolutions.com.